Hello and welcome to another edition of Florida Sportsman Action Spotter Podcast. I'm Captain Rick Riles. This is where we take a trip around the state every week and find out what's going on the water. My gosh, I've never seen so many boats on the water. I know that it's been crazy because in some areas, like where Captain Allen Schurman is in Miami, up until here just recently, all boat ramps were closed and the water was pretty much, it just wasn't anybody there. It was vacated. Now they're launching boats and now people are really going. The people that have been told to stay at home, I'm going to turn them all in because a lot of them that are supposed to be working from home are working on some great fish instead. I can tell you that. Everybody wasn't out of work, but a lot of people were able to skip out without the boss around. I tell you, it's been a great week weather-wise, too, so we're expecting some exceptional reports tonight, and we really hope you enjoy them. And hey, do us a favor. If you enjoyed tonight's broadcast, please subscribe to the podcast. We would ever so much appreciate it. It helps us with our numbers, obviously, which helps keep us on the air. We're going to get it started tonight with a little fantasy trip. We're going over to Costa Rica and find out what's happening at Nosara Paradise Rentals with our buddy Craig Sutton. Craig, how are you?
I'm good, Captain Ricky. How are you doing today?
Outstanding, outstanding. Now, life here in Florida seems to be returning to normal. Maybe we can see the horizon, a light at the end of the tunnel. Are they feeling that way in Costa Rica?
Absolutely. Man, absolutely. These boat guys are chomping at the bit. They know the fishing's good right now. They just got to get out there and get to it.
Oh,
they've been laying the foundation on Casabianca, so they're really ready to get out of there, go back to fishing.
Yeah, we think fishing's hard work till they do construction a few days.
Exactly.
then they want to go back fishing. That's great. Have you heard any reports? Have they been out at all?
No, they haven't, but I just was looking at the government website this afternoon, and everything looks like it's a go. They're going to start opening up the beaches and the restaurants and the bars and stuff on the 15th of May, and then they're planning on announcing June 1st. But they may open it back up on the 15th, but the word is for sure June 1, they're going to allow flights and everything's going back to normal.
Craigie, I got good news.
Yes, sir.
If you make no money between now and June 1st, I've got enough mahi and wahoo to feed us. You're good, brother.
Yeah, well, hopefully I got some left over from Saturday.
We're not the people that need to worry. I think we're in good shape. We ain't missed many meals.
Nah, we're not going to miss any meals. And you know what? More importantly, our crews in Costa Rica aren't missing any. And, by refusing to lay anybody off, it was a gutsy move. And, I didn't think we were going to be closed as long as we have been. But, I'll accept it and deal with it. And we're going to be okay. We're going to be better off down the road.
Darn right. I love your attitude. Craig, we appreciate the heck out of it. Tell people how they can book a trip to Nosara.
They can get me at fishingnosara.com or they can call me at 904-591-2161. We're ready to answer the phones, too.
You know what, Craig? I got something else to tell you, too. You remember when I went down there last summer?
Yes, sir.
A listener to my radio show, a young man named Zeke Mears, happened to be there with his dad. He had won a trip on the show, and he was down there the same. Craigie is the best man I ever had on the boat.
Oh, he's a good one. I like Zeke. I really do.
You know what he spent his day doing today? Getting the 7 ready to go to Stewart.
Oh, my gosh. Oh, my gosh. Ricky, I thought you kept your boat ready. What would you need to do to it?
Well, we had to get a lot of that darn fishing stuff off of it to make room for all the film equipment that we have to use, so a lot of fishing stuff had to come off, but most of all, she had to have a new coat of wax. Everything had to be cleaned. We got to start out the season fresh, buddy.
There you go. That's the attitude, man. She's buffed up and ready to go, too.
I won't have a boat here for the next month or so in Jacksonville. Can a brother get a ride, Craigie? Can he get a ride to the Blue Water?
You better believe it, Ricky. But remember, we only got about 3 more weeks, and then it's Kingfish, 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 Kingfish. And there's not another fish in the ocean.
I know it, so I better go quick. So find us a day this week we can go, all right?
There ain't going to be nothing this week. The weather looks bad all week long, but, Monday or Tuesday of next week, maybe.
I hope so. All right, brother, we'll talk soon. Thank you, Craig.
Thank you, Ricky.
All right, we're going to start our little trip around the state of Florida tonight in the northeast corner where our main man, Captain David Voorhees, is waiting. David, are you with us?
How you doing, Captain Ricky?
Oh, man, I'm a little worn out from yesterday, David, but it's that good kind of feeling. You know what I'm talking about?
I know exactly what you're feeling. We had a good day yesterday also on the inshore scene. It's been pretty good, Rick. I mean, the fish are still in deep water, which means they're not as spooky. You know, I was talking to several captains today, and a couple of them have figured out the deep water stuff and said, you know, we're not finding anything up in shallow. Neither. We're catching them in deep water. And, you know, we were like, I wonder what could be causing these fish to go deep. And I think it has to do with all this boat traffic we got, Rick. I think all this boat traffic we have, there's more people right now on their boats out fishing. I mean, my gosh, if you'd seen the Intercoastal Waterway this weekend, you would have thought it was the 4th of July. But with that being said, you know, low tide seems to be still a good bite. However, I found the fish to bite yesterday. Throughout the whole outgoing tide, we did pretty good in the deep water jigging. We caught a few trout, but seems like, you know, one week was good and this week they're sort of off, and seems to be common with trout. You know, you'll have one really good week. I don't know if it sounds like something that could be driven by the moon or whatever, but it seems like the bigger trout are definitely in the St. Johns River and maybe closer down towards the St. Augustine Inlet. But in the intercoastal, most of what we're seeing as far as trout, they're small, 15, 16 inches. Haven't seen any real big ones this week. Flounder seem to have really slowed down for everybody. I mean, boy, they were going hot and heavy there, you know, the early part of the spring, but it seems like things have slowed down on the flounder scene. Can't quite figure that one out. You know, we're complaining now. We're only catching maybe one or two a trip, whereas several weeks ago, you know, we were catching as many as 6 to 10 a trip. But there's plenty of other fish around. There's plenty of the pelagic, the ladyfish, the jacks. You're having good days when you can go out and mix up a couple of good reds, maybe a nice trout, one keeper flounder, and then throw in a half dozen jacks, ladyfish, and what have you. So we're keeping the lines bending, which is a good sign. As far as my best bet for inshore, I would say find the deep water, those deep ledges, and you're going to find those reds. And when you find one, keep working that area. There's never just one redfish. Now, as far as the cobia scene goes, you know, this is prime time for us up here for cobia. These cobia are coming through now. Talked to several captains on the cobia scene, and I don't know, and I guess some guys might get mad at me putting some of this information out, but I'm going to put it out anyway. It sounds like the guys that went up north, and I mean around Jacksonville, I'm going to say from the Jacks Pier north, didn't do as good as the guys who were just a little bit south of there. Sounds like some of the rays, by the time they get to Jacksonville, there's not a lot of cobia left on the rays. But some of the guys who stayed a little further south tend to do a little bit better on the cobia scene. Pogies are showing up. I've even had a report of some tarpon being seen in pogie pods.
How about that? How about that? I tell you, there's no doubt, David, that summer comes earlier every year, and this year it certainly seems to be here. Well, I got to tell you, we had a very good blue water day yesterday by our standards, but Tuesday, David, now get this, Tuesday we saw fish everywhere. We saw mahi chasing flyers. We saw tuna busting. We saw tuna jumping through the bait schools. We saw sailfish free jumping. We struggled. We had one tuna, one king, and one sail, I think. And then yesterday, we saw no fish, and we heard of very few fish. We had a half a dozen gaffer mahi. We had a 40-pound wahoo. We had a 40-pound kingfish, of all things, and a pair of probably 18 to 20-pound tuna. It's just some days you turn right when you should turn right, and some days you turn left when you should turn right. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. But, you know, I got to ask you, Rick, about this 40-pound king mackerel, man. You know, tell me, was he in close? Was he way out there off the wreck?
He was in 200 feet of water in the middle of nowhere. And in fact, it was a funny thing. We caught him on a lip diver that we pulled for wahoo. We had caught a wahoo on it earlier. We had it on the downrigger, and we're getting ready to go home. We bring the downrigger up, and the line is in the mate's hands, and the kingfish takes the plug out of his hands. probably
goodness.
25, 30 feet behind the boat. We thought it was going to be another nice wahoo, but be that as it may, the mahi season is not great. You work for everyone you get. I mean, it's not easy, but there are a few around. The blackfin tuna seem to be thinning out, and it looks to me like most of the wahoo have gone on up to the Carolinas. Now, there is a number of boats that Mark Lacavera with Front Runner had a lot to do with getting this fishery started, but there's a number of boats with the capability to run to the other side of the Gulf Stream, which is 130 miles from Jacksonville, and they got in the yellowfin tuna yesterday and scored very, very well. So that looks like our burgeoning new fishery actually is going to be over on the other side of the Gulf Stream. But so far, this mahi season, which we all look for every May, has been a bit of a disappointment.
I hate to hear that, Rick, but if they're like any other species of fish, and we talk about this a lot, sometimes they come in waves, and sometimes everything comes in different seasons. So, there's always tomorrow, buddy.
Yep. And Don Hammond, the preeminent scientist on mahi research, says that the reality of mahi is there are billions born every year. He said that a female can spawn a couple of times a week, David. And he said that every year the ocean produces billions, and some years there's enough food to support 1%, and some years there's enough food to support 2%. That you're just going to have good years and bad years with mahi, I guess, just like we do everything else.
Yep. That sounds like the case with the mahi. But Rick, as far as things going up here, I've talked to several captains. It seems like things are loosening up here. Several of the captains today, not just me, but several other captains reported going to have a good week this week. Sounds like business could be somewhat back to normal. I don't know what normal is anymore, but all the captains are saying, yeah, this week for some reason the phones have been ringing. Guys are taking people fishing this week. So,
hallelujah.
Man, let's keep our fingers crossed and let's hope we got a good little run going here.
I'm with you. Hallelujah. All right, David, speaking of phone numbers, give us your phone number and how people can contact you if they want to go fishing with Backwater Fishing Adventures.
You can call me at 904-708-8915, or you can look me up on my website at backwaterfishingadventures.com.
Thank you, David.
All right, thank you, Rick. We'll see you next week, buddy.
Talk to you next week, pal. We appreciate it. Captain David Voorhees with our Northeast Florida report. Now let's run on down the coast a little bit and check in with the East Central section and check in with our boy, Jim Ross. Jimmy, how are you?
I'm doing fantastic today, Rick. How are you doing?
Well, first question, and I'm asking this to all our guys tonight. Does it feel like in your charter business, can you see a light at the end of that tunnel, Jim?
Yeah, Rick, I think there is a light at the end of the tunnel. We shut down to try to adhere to the stay-at-home order through the month of half of March and all of April. And basically, we did one or two little trips, but we're back running wide open again. I've run the last 4 days. I can tell you, though, the bite right now is really tough in the Central East region. And I don't care if you're trout fishing. I don't care if you're black drum fishing. I don't care if you're snook fishing, triple tail fishing, trolling offshore. It has been a tough bite. There's been little glimmers of hope here and there. We had a good opening in the grouper season. There's been some nice grouper caught. But overall, with this high pressure system that we've had move in and whatever else has happened after the last cold front went through at the end of last week, the bite here, we have struggled. Here's how you know it's a tough bite. The best red fishing guide that I know, and probably top 2 or 3 red fishing guides on the planet, texted me today and says, "This sucks. Where the heck did the fish go?" And that is the one and only Captain Troy Perez, who has he's got over 100 world records to his credit for himself and putting his clients on world records. When that guy who knows everything that there is to know about every red fish that's ever swam in Brevard County water says the fish instinct, it's not just you.
All right, let me understand this. You got in a huddle and you're about to call a play, and Tom Brady looked at you and said, "You got any flipping idea what we should do?" Is that
exactly? Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. That's exactly what just happened. Yeah.
Golly.
So, we have caught some fish. There's been some trout here. There's been a black thumb or a sniff, or there's been a little, there's been a fish or two. But overall, this has been the least productive week that we've had this year so far, I would say, as when you look at the fishery as a whole.
It won't last. It won't last. They'll be backbiting.
Yep. And like today, I sat on a school of snook today. There was probably 400 fish in the school, Rick. And we threw pilchards, we threw greenies, we threw croakers, we threw shrimp, we threw swim bait, we threw bucktail jigs, tipped with fish bites. We threw everything that we had in the boat, basically. We caught one 28 and a quarter inch snook. We had one bite from those snook, and I stayed on them for 4 hours today because the guys wanted snook. 4 hours of the 8-hour trip. It's very difficult to leave a school of snook the size of this school because at any minute when they fire off, it's going to turn into absolute mayhem. But we've seen it. Yesterday morning, I was on a school of probably 400 or 500 jack crevalle in the Indian River by Titusville. And 2 feet of water, clean water, and we were casting lures and jigs and top waters and everything else. We hooked 2 of those fish in about a 25-minute time span. And every other fish would just swim around your lure as it was coming past.
Man, that's weird. I mean, that's like throwing Ricky a spicy Popeye's thigh and him saying, "Nah, no thanks." That ain't gonna happen, Captain.
Like you say, it's only for a short period of time. The moon, the stars, the planets, whatever. The barometer. You can the direction of the wind. You can call it whatever you want. We know it's not going to last, and so we've put in our time. We've paid our due diligence. Now we're going to start the reward. Get some of the rewards, and so we're looking forward to those fish turning back on and really starting to eat good again, like they have the last few weeks.
I can feel it coming now. Now that it's time for everybody to come back to Florida and go fishing again, how can they get a hold of Fine Line Fishing Charters?
It's real easy. 321-636-3728 if you have any questions. You can go to the website, and it will probably answer just about every question that you might ask. But you can also book us there, and if you do have questions, please call us at finelinefishingcharters.com. Captain Jim Ross and my son, Captain Justin Ross. We're looking forward to people coming back to the state. Being able to actually rent a room at a hotel once again would be a phenomenal thing. That would be awesome. And just come on down here because we've gotten all those bad days out of the way. So there's nothing but good fishing left, in my opinion.
I'm with you. Thank you, Jimmy.
Take care, Rick.
I love it when fishermen that always talk about how good fishing is, they tell us that fishing's bad, because you know what? Then when they tell us fishing's good, we know that they're not just making it up to book charters. No, when our guys' fishing is bad, they're the first ones to say, hey, I don't know about next week, but this week wasn't very good. And that's how it was for Jim Ross. We're going to take a little jump now. We're going to move down to Miami and check in with our buddy Alan Schurman. Alan, are you with us?
Hey, Rick.
Are things easing up in South Florida at all?
I hate to be the negative guy, but yes, we see some changes for sure, and we hope they're going to all be for the good. It's just there's so much uncertainty with this thing that with the virus that you just don't know what's going to happen in weeks down the road. But for the time being, the boat ramps reopened, which was on Wednesday. I myself was able to hit the water, and it was a good thing to get out on the water after almost 5 or 6 weeks of not being able to fish. So that was just in itself a beautiful day on the water. There was a little bit of bait out there. And the offshore scene, the guys fishing for kingfish, they're just whacking them. They're not biting every day or all day long, but if you hit a group and they fire up for you, these are the spawning groups, so they're bigger fish, anywhere from 10 to 20 pounds with some 40, 50 pounders mixed in. So that's pretty exciting stuff. And they're finding them anywhere from 40 feet out to about 120 feet of water. Been a lot of sailfish. I heard a report of like one boat getting over, I want to say 60 in a day.
Woo!
I mean, those numbers are hard to fathom, but it can happen. It's big pods of them come through. It's been done many times during fishing tournaments, and especially in the month of April, which we just came out of. But, in my bay boat, we were out on Friday. We jumped one, had them on for a couple of jumps and lost them, but we really weren't fishing for sailfish. We were fishing for groupers. And because the grouper season reopened, everybody in the world was fishing for groupers. And there were a lot of black groupers, good-sized fish, up to probably 30, 40 pounds caught. We managed a 21-inch red grouper, which we released. and really didn't have any other big hits. But the charter boats are doing well. Some guys are trolling for the black groupers over the reefs, and other guys are fishing live pinfish, big threadfin herring, and goggle eyes. The sailfish are going for live goggle eyes and threadfin herring fished on a kite. And then the kingfish, they're eating pilchards, ballyhoo, and there's been a lot of ballyhoo around. It's easy to go out there on the ocean side, even in the inlets, and put a chum block out, and in no time you should have a big group of ballyhoo behind the boat that you can throw a net on, and then go ahead and put them back out once you get to the fishing grounds. But there's been a pretty good, sailfish bite out there, kingfish, and then there's on the bottom, they've also got some really nice mutton snappers, fish up to 10, 12 pounds during the spawning season that they're going through.
So the fishing's good. You just need the customers to come back.
The locals are here and wanting to fish, and they are fishing. That's what's got the fishing guides and the charter boat captains, party boats. That's where they're getting their customers from, because there's not a lot of, visitors, not a lot of tourists around, trying to find a way to get down here and then trying to find a place to stay. The hotels still aren't open yet, so there's nowhere for these people to sleep at night if they get here. So that's an issue. And, all this stuff is going to work itself out as the weeks go by. We should see things get better, but a lot of regulations, a lot of rules at the boat ramps, on the party boats, and even on the charter boats. That I think they may not be allowed to have more than 4 customers. And the party boats, I don't think they can have more than 10. So that's hard for these boats to earn a living when they're handcuffed like that. So before you head out, you need to check things to make sure the boat ramps, they open up in the mornings this weekend. The lines literally were miles long trying to get into a boat ramp. I read a story where guys were getting to the boat ramp on Friday night at 10 p.m. to make sure that they got in when it opened at 7 a.m. And within 2 hours, the boat ramps were closed.
That's somebody that really, really wants to go fishing. I mean, woo!
I agree, man. I agree.
Man, that is something. Well, Alan, one step at a time, I guess. At least it's better than it was a week ago. But the good news is it's going to be better next week than it is this week. Buddy, we appreciate it. Thank you so much, Alan.
Look forward to talking to you next week.
You got it.
Bye-bye.
Captain Alan Schurman from Get 'em Sport Fishing Charters. Slowly, life in Miami seems to be getting back to normal. Let's see if it's that way down in the Keys. Captain Nick Stanczyk, are you with us?
How you doing, Rick?
I'm doing wonderful. But Nick, can you see a light at the end of the tunnel?
I think we're getting closer. There's a few local people fishing, but we're hoping in June to be open up the course again. I don't know if it'll happen, but that's what it's kind of sounding like.
All right. Have you fished it all this week?
I did, yeah. I ran one trip with a couple from Key Largo, and a couple of other friends came with them. And that was maybe 2 days ago, and we caught one swordfish about 80 pounds. Then we had some tunas and a big amberjack. And then the following day, we did a short trip with another guy from Lower Metacumby and caught like 10 blackfins, one decent one. The rest were just footballs. And we went and did some deep dropping for tile fish because they just opened up and caught 8 or 9 blue line tiles and one small snowy. So couldn't complain about that.
No, sir. I'm going to dinner. I'm coming to that house for dinner. I'm gonna tell you right now. That's some good eating right there. Nick, I gotta tell you, I don't know about down there, but up here and almost all the way up and down the coast, it seems to be such a good year for blackfin tuna. Are you seeing that?
There definitely is. We didn't see as many on the reefs like this, late winter, early spring. But that being said, not as many boats were fishing, obviously late March and April. But they're definitely stacked up on some of the humps out there right now. And I have seen, like you said, I've seen some of those pictures of 30-plus pounders being caught up a little bit north of us.
Boy, a 30-pound blackfin tuna is a bad animal now.
Yeah. We did one other trip, too, out back. With my family, like I said earlier, that's the one good thing, I guess. I've been getting to fish with my dad and my brother. And we got on some cobias. Nothing big, 36 to 38 inches, but keepers, psycho a couple as well. In the Gulf of Mexico, and we also had caught some big sharks. We had a big hammerhead that was probably 400 pounds, and had 2 Goliaths. One was about 400, and another one about 200. And we hooked a couple we couldn't stop. So that was a nice change of scenery for us as well.
Man, that is some big fish. I tell you what, any idea when the Keys are going to open back up? What are you hearing?
We don't know yet. We're hoping in June, but that's just a guess. So it sounded like it was so close throughout May. So we'll see what happens the next couple of weeks.
Well, your family and your business and all that area down there is in our prayers, Nick, and hopefully you'll be back at doing what you love very, very soon.
I hope so. Thank you, and we appreciate it. And all these guys they're all ready to go fishing here. They're getting bored of sitting at home, and there's a season like so hopefully they'll be back to work here sooner than later.
I can see Bud and Mary's absolutely jam-packed. You can't get in the parking lot very soon. Thank you, buddy.
Yeah, no problem. Take it easy.
We appreciate it. Captain Nick Stanczyk, an absolutely legendary captain from a legendary family down at Bud and Mary's in Alamorada. Gosh, man, I tell you what, sailfish have got to be one of the great Florida success stories. They were stressed out for a while when we had a lot of longliners in the Florida Straits and a lot of guys taking fish to the taxidermist. We all played a part in it. I'm guilty as anybody is. But now it's an all-release fishery. Doesn't have to be. You can keep one, but hardly does anybody ever do it. It's circle hooks in all tournaments, which most guys have gone to circle hooks for their everyday sail fishing. And we've gotten the longliners off of the coast. What a rebound we've seen with sailfish. All right, let's take a trip now over around to the West Coast a little ways and stop in 10,000 Islands and check on our buddy Steve Dahl. Steve, you with us?
We are. How are you doing?
I'm doing outstanding, my boy. How about yourself?
It's been good. I'm excited. We're back on the water full time now, and we're rolling. With precautions, but we're rolling. The fishing certainly isn't disappointing, both offshore and inshore. The inshore side's been synonymous with what we should expect in May. We're in the peak of tarpon season, seeing those fish kind of cruising the outside islands and the beaches. But we're also seeing them in some of the adjacent bays closer to the passes that kind of feed the 10,000 Islands, and then within the passes themselves. So depending on the tide and kind of what's going on day to day, they kind of move around just a little bit. But there's fish in each of those zones, I call it, now that the migration is in full swing. Fish are getting a little educated, so we're kind of past the low-hanging fruit, if you will, and so pre-dawn starts are imperative right now, so you're going to have to get extra cup of coffee ready and get up quite early to tackle these bruisers, because about an hour after the sun's up, the bite really, really gets tough. Not to say you can't do it, but if you're going to invest the time, expect that bite to kind of wane a little bit.
Steve, it seems to me like that means one of two things. Either the water's gotten warmer and the fish are getting lazy earlier in the day, or you caught all the stupid ones already.
Well, I'd like to think we've caught our fair share of the dumb ones, because it's hard to catch the smart ones, for sure. But you're right on both fronts. It definitely is a water temperature thing for us. And within that also comes the snook fishing. So that's the nice part. Once the tarpon kind of shut down, you can go catch snook pretty much all day long. And live bait's pretty imperative, for the, white bait's abundant in our area right now. So you can cast that no problem up in the shallows, even, a little bit easier to get in the shallower water than the deeper water. But that's abundant. They'll readily take some artificials as well, but that seems to work a little bit better in lower light conditions. So if you have an overcast day, you get a little bit better, shot at getting those. So between the tarpon and the snook inshore, it's been really good. And we've gotten some good reports offshore too. The grouper fishing still remains really, really strong. Hermit fishing, I think we're going to shape up to probably be one of our best Mays. A fellow captain down in the region wrote 7 fish over 30 pounds 4 days ago.
Oh, that's good fish.
That is along with 2 cobia pushing, about 30 pounds. So, I always talk about our permit fishing, it sets up so differently than say Nick's region down in the Keys, or even, over in, Miami in the same bay. We don't have a shallow water permit fishery. We have an offshore permit fishery. And we're kind of getting into maybe another couple months here where the sharks are just going to be everywhere. And I strongly encourage people to kind of, as good as the permit fishing can be in the month of May, once the sharks, show up, you're probably going to land 1 or 2 of those 1 out of every 2 fish. And it's just not worth, hooking up a permit and, having a shark get it. And so I always strongly encourage people to kind of look for some other different stuff. So try to keep that in mind. If you're getting, a lot of sharks, it's probably time to move on and kind of, save those fish. And hopefully we can get those, 40 pounders, a little bit more regular.
Brother, I got to tell you, I agree with you. And sharks are becoming more and more of an issue everywhere we go. And honestly, Steve, we're seeing them hit species of fish that we've never seen them hit before.
Yeah.
As many tuna as I've lost to sharks, and I've lost tuna to sharks all my life. About a year ago, we started losing mahi to sharks, and we're losing sailfish to sharks. It's weird.
That is.
Had somebody catch a monster mahi. I saw it on Facebook the other day. Had to have had 10 bites taken out of it. Wasn't a real big shark, but it was obviously a very aggressive one. I mean, it's just strange. But, man, I can't tell you how glad I am to hear that you guys are getting back in business again. Charter boat captains have been as affected as anybody anywhere in the economy, and I am so tickled to hear people are on their way out back fishing.
Yeah, me too. I mean, not just from a personal standpoint, but my fellow brethren and, throughout the state, seems like, it's starting to pick up. That guys are, getting back to work with some regularity, and that's good. That's good, obviously, for the economy and the state of mind. There's so much about the piece and how you feel when you're on the water, and that we all know that. And it's sometimes the fishing takes a little bit of a back seat, especially in times like this. Encourage everyone to, regardless of what region you're in, hire your favorite guide, try out a new one. Good time, opportunity to do that, and you'll certainly learn a lot. Obviously, all the guys we have that do the regional reports are top-notch guys, and it's just, you've got a destination you want to go to around the state. Try one of those guys. They're not going to disappoint you at all.
You got it. Good words. Good talk, Steve. We appreciate it very much. We'll talk with you next week if that's okay.
Sounds good. We'll talk then.
Thank you, buddy. This report is brought to you each and every week by Yamaha. Reliability starts here. By Tournament Master Chum, the best chum on earth. By Nosara Paradise Fishing, your dream vacation. And by Young Boats. You want the finest in flat spay and offshore hybrid boats? You want youngboats.com.
You know what Yamaha Outboards love? The genuine formula and consistency of Yamalube marine engine oils.
What?
Outboards are subjected to punishing conditions like high loads, salt, and humidity, a mix that automotive oils can't handle. Yamalube full synthetic and marine performance formulas are certified to protect against friction and corrosion for reliable performance every time. Find Yamalube marine oils at your nearest Yamaha Outboard dealer. Locate them at yamahaoutboards.com/dealers. Yamaha, reliability starts here.
Hey, Raj, being consistent is a mark of a quality product. If you've been Florida's #1 chum for over 10 years, there's got to be a reason.
For 10 years, Tournament Master Chum has lived up to its name. That's why more tournament pros insist on Tournament Master than any other chum. It's the only chum with menhaden milk mixed right in. That means it gets the scent out faster and deeper than any other brand of chum. It comes in a grind size for every species from kingfish to catching bait. Your fishing time is way too precious to you second-rate chum. Bring the action to you by insisting on Tournament Master Chum. It's worth every penny.
When you're ready for the finest in custom-made flat spay or inshore-offshore hybrids, you are ready to meet the Young family in Inglis, Florida. For over 21 years, the Young family has built custom boats one at a time for every type of fishing. Nothing can sneak up on a flat quite like the Gulf Shore flats boats, and I've never fished a better hybrid than the Young 24s and 27s. Rob Young is a naval architect who takes tremendous pride in each and every build for each and every customer that wants their boat custom built exactly the way they want it. Is it time for you to move up? Are you ready to own the finest boat built? Then you need to visit the Young Boat facility in Inglis, Florida, or check them out online at youngboats.com. Let's swing on around and check in the Southwest region and see what Captain Greg Stamper's been up to. Greg, are you with us?
I'm right here.
So how have your fishing trips been? What are you catching?
Well, I can give you a little insight first. The offshore guys this week had a couple really nice days to go out and a few nights, and they're catching a lot of really good fish when they're going out there. The nice part is they're not going as far. They're good in the 70-foot range, so, I mean, you're going to laugh, but that's only 30 miles. So, for us, that's a good gig. But they're catching a lot of mangrove snappers. Nothing crazy this week. I haven't seen any 10-pounders coming into the dock. I have seen a lot of nice fish, though. probably in 3, 4, 5-pound range. Big yellowtails that are probably in the same ballpark. And I did see one picture from a good buddy of mine, Captain Greg, who runs out of Fishtail. He had a 30-pound red grouper.
Oh, that's the biggest one I've ever heard of, Greg Stamper.
I couldn't believe how big it was. It looked like it ate 5 footballs.
Wow, that's a bunch. That's a bunch. 30-pounder beats anyone I've ever seen. Are they catching gags at all?
Yeah, they're catching a few gags here and there. This week earlier, I was actually fishing a dock in the back bay. We were kind of deeper, and we caught a couple gags that would have been close to the legal limit. So those gags must be still in pretty much, normally around this time of year they start moving out, but they're still around. They're definitely still around. Now, I can tell you from my personal side, and I've watched a lot of guys going out this week, we've had a little bit of a difficulty catching tarpon. It hasn't been as crazy as it has been in the past. I think every year, Rick, we get a couple days where there's like a 3 or 4 day period where these fish are just not eating. I think they're thinking about going out there deeper and spawning, and I believe that's kind of what we were seeing this week.
Well, come to think of it, spawning is about the only thing that gets my mind off dinner.
Well, I can tell you one thing that was good is after a couple hours of staring at tarpon on my side scan or seeing a few roll here and there, you can always go out and catch a bunch of permit anywhere from 10 to 20 pounds. And that was pretty consistent for us this week.
That's excellent fishing.
Yeah, no, that's a good fish. And you know what? They're dry screamers. They're a lot of fun. They're just not a 150-pound tarpon or a 100-pound tarpon, But it's all good. They eat the same thing. And then when we get in the back days were a little bit difficult as well for us around this neck of the woods. We had some winds previously in the week, and the water's cleaning up pretty good. But we just didn't really have a real strong redfish bite. The snook bite's still very consistent. These fish have definitely moved out of their winter haunts, and they're already out in the cuts and the oyster bars and in the passes. And I'm sure if I really tried hard, I could probably pick a few of them off the wrecks and the nearshore stuff.
Gotcha. All right. Well, there's nothing wrong with that. It sounds to me like right now you've got plenty good enough fishing for people to come down and have a great time fishing with Snook Stamp Charters. We just got to get things freed up a little bit more, and patience. If we show a little patience, I think we'll get through this.
They're opening up slowly. Before I leave you, I did run back from tarpon fishing today. I didn't even stop, and I saw a triple tail that was probably 10 pounds.
Oh, where is he now?
I got a mark for my guy tomorrow.
All right. Well, I hope he stays right there. I surely do. Hope nobody beats you to him. And if your guy doesn't want him, say, that's all right. I got a buddy in Jacksonville that'll take him. Don't worry about a thing. Captain Greg Stamper, as always, we appreciate it and highly recommend that folks go fishing with Snook Stamp Charters when they're in Southwest Florida. Now let's come on up I-75 a little bit, pull over, and see what's going on with Captain Ray Markham. Ray, are you with us?
Yes, sir.
Man, it's
just
good.
Cleaning up the mess we made today.
A, I'm glad to hear you made a mess, and B, I'm glad to hear you're cleaning it up. Now, let me ask you, everybody,
Sure.
Of course, everybody's charter business has been just decimated with the virus, but do you see a light at the end of the tunnel, Ray Markham?
If we build more boat ramps, I would say yes.
Yeah.
I mean, right? Honest to gosh, I mean, it doesn't matter what day of the week it is. I mean, there's no place to park a boat trailer. You find yourself parking a half a mile or a mile down the road from the ramp. After you launch your boat, you wonder if you're still going to have a boat left when you come back.
Yep. They started towing trucks off of the highways in Jacksonville on Friday.
Good for them.
They showed it on the news. They were literally sending tow trucks. There were trucks parked over a mile away from the boat ramp.
I almost could have predicted all that. People were just chafing at the bit to get out and fish and get out on the water and just get away from being inside,
Mm-hmm.
And the weather here has, for the most part, been really nice. I mean, today was actually just too nice. I know you know what I mean by that when it's slicked out calm and you see everything and everything sees you.
Yep.
In shallow water, it makes it tough. And so we struggled a little bit today, but we managed to catch some nice fish.
Good.
So not too shabby.
What'd you catch?
Well, let's see. We got snook, we got redfish, we got trout, we got some big jacks, We got some Spanish mackerel, and we got bluefish.
Right, that's a fine day. There ain't nothing wrong with that.
And they didn't keep a thing.
That makes it easy on you, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
What are you hearing from offshore? Anything?
Well, they're just starting to get back to action right now, and the guys that I talked to is like everything's kind of been put on hold with Kingfish tournaments, but they're out there. I mean, they're out there in the ditch, which what we call Egmont Ship Channel, just off of Egmont Key. There's a 90-foot hole that runs there, and if you take a line out of Port Manatee, it runs out the center of the Sunshine Skyway span out towards Egmont and then out into the Gulf for 12 miles. That's the Egmont Ship Channel, which they also call the ditch once you're out there in front of Egmont. But basically, it's a known spot for lots of big kingfish and lots of tarpon.
Good deal.
This week it's going to be a tarpon bonanza. We got broken off 2 times today by tarpon that were mistaken our jigs for. I don't know if they thought they were trout or whatever, but we're fishing some holes in about 10 feet of water, and all of a sudden, the sky erupts with this shiny silvery thing, just gill raking, gills rattling and whatnot, and it was a little surprising, and we weren't really thinking about tarpon at the time. But water temperature here has been bumping between 84 and 85 degrees now, up about 10 degrees since last week. A lot of adjustments to be made, but this is a tarpon week here. We got full moon coming up and big tides, and that's kind of like the recipe for a good tarpon bite late in the afternoon.
Bullseye. All right, so people can expect tarpon later this week. I tell you, life is starting now. Everybody's starting to focus on getting back to normal in the recovery. I think the charter business is about to boom because I know people are frustrated and they're ready to get out on the water. So Ray, I'm certainly hoping that you stay booked up. I think you will, and life will return to normal, and we'll hear all about it next week.
Write me a story on what normal is, all right?
Yeah, we'll recognize it when we see it, I promise you. Thank you, Ray.
Catch you later, guys.
Now we're going to go visit the new daddy, okay? His daughter tried so hard to make it in time for our podcast last week. I know how important it was to her. She wanted to hear her daddy being on the radio, but she didn't quite make it, so neither did Captain William Tony. But welcome back, Daddy.
Yep, right here. It was a grand experience. So, Daddy again. And the good thing is Mom and Baby's well, and we're all well here in downtown Homosassa.
Man, there ain't nothing wrong with that. What a fine place to be. William, let me ask you, this virus, of course, has just decimated the charter industry, and I understand that. Can you see a light at the end of the tunnel this week?
Yes, I can. I guess the Santos has gave the okay for 25%. We're lucky enough here in Homosassa and other places on the Big Bend that a lot of our restaurants and places like that are on the river, have open air seating. So they can get that out there and get people distances and try to get that economy up. Luckily in our area, the fishing has not been shut down as far as ramps and getting to get out on the water. Now, I can tell you this, the FWC is definitely watching, and those people who will gang up on a key to swim or get in big groups, there is a fine. I haven't heard of anyone getting it, but, they're making sure that everybody follows the guidelines. And so far in our area, they have, and that's what's helping us stay open and busy that, here coming to the end of this.
Good deal. You're very fortunate. I've talked with Nick Stanczyk earlier down in the Keys, and of course they are shut out. You can't get there. In Miami, you may have seen on Facebook, in Miami, you can't get a boat in the water. I mean, you and I are blessed. Wow. You and I are blessed to live where we live, Cap.
Right. There's only one exception I can think about. I heard it in the island of Cedar Key. You couldn't get in there unless you had a local address, and they're kind of their own little world out there. So they had 0 cases, and but I believe Levy County is kind of going to lift restrictions and let some of those folks out there start coming in from, over in Alachua and the other side of Levy County that like to fish that Waukesasa Bay on up toward Horseshoe and everywhere like that.
Yeah, fishing has been at least in Northeast Florida, whew, it seems like every day is a tournament. I mean, it is so many boats on the water because obviously there's so many people that have got more free time than they're used to. I've even heard of cases, now, of course, this wouldn't apply to me, but I've heard of guys who went fishing all day to get away from their families. I mean, I've never heard of such a thing, but...
Oh, well, that's, yeah. I know there's a Black Friday that happens once a year, and I tell you, in my area, if you're a guy that is still living with a pulse, you're going to get booked that day, and generally it's a lot of men who are going to avoid going to those shopping sprees. So I figure it's just a good way people to get out. But what I will say is right at the beginning of all this, we had a lot of people, a lot of influx of people in our area from further south toward the Tampa area because ramps were closed. And then now it seems it's still busy on the weekend, but it's starting to taper off. And I think that all those savings and funds that it takes to run a boat and go out for a day of fishing are starting to get a little thinner. So it's kind of alleviated some of our pressure. But I will tell you, if you're a guy up here on the Big Bend on a weekend, you will get anxiety when you get out there thinking if you're going to get to a spot.
William, all I can tell you from living in a major population center is you don't know what you're talking about. I promise you.
I can't, Rick, I can't cry to anybody, man. I cannot cry to anybody.
Nobody in Homosassa can tell me about too many boats on the water. That ain't happening. All right, I got a quick one for you before you go. You ready for this?
I'm ready.
You're talking about Black Friday. So it is 2 weeks maybe before Christmas. And my buddy Danny Patrick's wife his wife says, honey, we need to go Christmas shopping today. And he says, no, we don't either. And she said, why? And I said, honey, it's raining. Or I didn't say it. Danny said, honey, it's raining outside. It's cold. It's windy. And good and well, you're going to have to park a half a mile from the mall. One of the two of us is going to get sick. We're not going out in the weather and Christmas shopping today. And she said, you know what? You're right. It's a bad idea. I said, so what'd you do? And he said, what do you think? I hooked up the boat and went fishing.
Absolutely.
Darn right.
Why not?
Yeah, that's right. Got it right.
You can't wear those bibs and boots inside the mall. They won't let you.
That's exactly right. Put my boots on and away we go. Tell me real quickly before you go, we've talked about your business and everything. We haven't talked very much about your fishing. What's the bite like?
All right. Right now, those folks and anglers on the Big Bend that want to target cobia, it is definitely on. Cool. Captain Clay Scheidler up in Crystal River this past Sunday put an 87-pounder in the boat. Saw a couple come in today. Offshore, a couple of offshore guys are getting AJs out at about 60 foot, but the cobia bite is on anywhere from 8 foot on high rock piles all the way out to 30. If you got good wreck numbers, and even on the way out to your best numbers, do not hesitate to look at every channel marker on the way out.
Buddy, I tell you what, I am glad to see those big giant fish back on the West Coast again. You guys have had some tough cobia years. Does it look like this year might be better?
Actually, this year is so far started out real good. It always seems to start around mid-April and peak out about the end of May. So depending on that water temperature, we've had some pretty good fronts come by. And this past Friday, Saturday, Sunday, we had 55, 58-degree mornings. So we're kind of having this really prolonged spring. And I was out there in about 5 to 7 foot trout fishing today on the flats, and the water clarity is just gorgeous, beautiful. You could read the date on a dime down there today. That's how clear and pretty it was. And a lot of times when it's like that, that's when you see those cobias around that structure. And as long as you got a good pinfish, heavy spinning tackle, 30-pound Power Pro braided line, 60-pound leader, I bet you're going to catch them.
Outstanding. Any good redfish reports?
Redfish on the western-facing points on the incoming tide. What I've been doing is trying to get there just as that tide turns in. Very super shallow. Those fish will come off the flat. If you got a spot that you're catching them on high water, and they come there at high water, if you can stage, I always tell people it's like going to your deer stand in the morning. You blend in and get really in there in the dark and sit real quiet and watch everything happen. Just as that tide turns, if you can get to your redfish spot and sit there, and be quiet. You'll see them come off that flat and come in, and you can knock that phase of the fishing out real quick and pick them off as they come, and the water's real clear, so the sight casting for them is fantastic.
That's the best fishing there is. William, we always appreciate it. Congratulations again. What's your baby girl's name?
My baby girl's name is Ivona, after my grandmother. She lived right across the street from where I live right now. We still have the family house, and my grandmother was very special to me, so my daughter is very special to me, so it's just a good thing.
Ivona Tony.
That's it.
I like it. I like it.
Tony.
I like it. I like it. And do me a favor, between now and next week, make sure you feed her and change her diaper, okay?
Oh, yeah. I've got plenty of practice on that, trust me.
All right. Talk to you next week, brother.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. This report is brought to you each and every week by Yamaha. Reliability starts here. By Tournament Master Chum, the best chum on earth. By Nosara Paradise Fishing, your dream vacation. And by Young Boats. You want the finest in flat spay and offshore hybrid boats? You want youngboats.com. Let's swing around to the Northwest section and talk with Captain Kevin Lanier. Kevin, how are you?
Hey, Captain Rick, we're doing great this week. How about yourself?
Well, we're doing really well, and I've asked everybody this question. For the most part, I've gotten a positive answer. You know, the charters really aren't pouring back in yet, but I think we can see a light at the end of the tunnel. Can you see it?
I can see a light at the end of the tunnel, and I'm not thinking it's train. It's just a matter of how far away that light is.
Yep, I'm with you. What's going on with you? How's your fishing?
Hey, fishing's been great. We had a fantastic weekend. We caught our first nice king mackerel of the season, about 25 pounds. And the funny thing about that was the girl that caught it, she hasn't fished since she was 8 years old. And so it's the first time she'd been out fishing in lots of years, and reeled in that thing off a flat line. We got vermilion snapper, we got lanes, we got scamps, we got all kinds of stuff. It was actually a real fun weekend for us.
That's great. How many scamps?
We only got the one, and the funny thing about it was we really weren't in an area that we would normally catch a scamp. So it wasn't much above legal, but it was there, and it's I'm sure it's tasty.
Speaking of fish not being where they're supposed to be, I'm wrapping up my blue water day yesterday in about 260 feet of water, okay, miles from any meaningful bottom structure, and we're bringing up the planer rod. The planer is out of the water, and all of a sudden it about gets jerked out of the mate's hands. Guess what it was? You probably wouldn't guess a 39-pound kingfish, would you?
No, I wouldn't guess that.
I don't know what he was doing there, but that wasn't what we were looking for.
Oh my goodness! You know that's always the thing. In fact, my mate and I were talking. You get things most times when you're really not expecting, and that just seems to be the way fishing goes.
I did not expect a good day yesterday. Our blue water season has not been good. Our mahi really haven't showed. We've done okay on wahoo and tuna, but it's just been okay. And yesterday, the whole fleet was there. Everybody seemed to be still going through I got one wahoo, I got two tuna, this kind of stuff. But Kevin, I swear, every time I turned right yesterday, I was supposed to turn right, and every time I needed to turn left, I turned left. We ended up with a box of fish, and best day of the year by far. It's all about timing, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. It's absolutely about timing. You got time for a quick timing story?
Sure, go ahead.
All right, I was fishing out there Saturday, and one of my clients hooked into a nice, one of those nearly extinct red snappers.
Yeah, right.
And reeled it up, and hooked around the line was a piece of braid. So I grabbed that piece of braid, and I just kind of started pulling it, and I felt weight on the end of it. So I was pulling it up, and the guy asked me, well, what are you doing? I said, well, there's at least a weight on the end of this thing. I'm going to get it. So I pull it up. We're in 110 feet of water. I start to get it all the way to the top, and all of a sudden the eye tip of a rod comes out of the water, 2-3, and I pull out a Penn 7500 Fin Fisher on a Penn Slammer rod.
Tell me it was still in good shape.
It was in great shape.
Wow.
We immediately doused it with fresh water, brought it home, And this morning I posted on Facebook asking anybody if they lost a rod on the Mexico Beach recreational site. And lo and behold, I get a message, and I call the fellow, and he had a young man on his boat drop that rod reel over the side that morning, and I caught it in the afternoon.
How about that? Now, that's pretty cool, right? Yeah, that's timing. That's real fine timing is what that is. Oh, that's an outstanding report. Have you heard anything from inshore in your area?
Oh, absolutely. The flounder fishing is outstanding right now in the bay and the canal. We had a really nice young man catch quite a large trout. I never got quite the measurement on it, but I saw it. It was about as long as his arm. And another buddy of mine, he heading out Saturday morning, kind of had to stop and get some gear ready, and he looked up, and there was a triple tail just laying in the surface near the, not too far off the beach. He threw a jig out there and caught it. And Rick, this is the biggest triple tail I've ever seen.
Whoa, that covers a lot of triple tail. How big do you think it was?
Oh, he was probably, I'd say 22, 24 inches long.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, he was a good triple tail. Now, I know there's a lot of big triple tail out there, but I'm just talking about for me personally.
And that's a good one. Now, in talking with William Toney, he seemed to feel like the cobia season's going a little better this year than it has for you boys in the last few years. You seeing that too?
I'm just now, I had two buddies catch one today. So, and they were probably in the 30, 40-pound range. I had another one call me with a report on Saturday. He said he saw a school of them out about 20 miles on one of the reef sites. So, at least we're seeing fish more so than we've seen them over the last couple of years.
Good deal. Good deal. That's all good news. Kevin, I'm telling you, life's going to get back to normal before you know it. KC's Charters is going to be just as booked up on that new World Cat as it can be.
That's true. If y'all want to go fishing with me, just get in touch with us at KC Sport Fishing, and we'll go fishing.
You got it. Thank you, Kevin.
All right, you guys have a great evening.
All right, buddy. Take care. You know, you can't leave Florida without going through the Panhandle, and that's where we're going to make our last stop for this evening and check in with Captain Tyler Massey. Tyler, how are you?
I'm doing good, Rick. How are you doing?
Good. You know, I've asked every one of our spotters this tonight. I got to ask you, is life about to get better?
Yeah, I think so. Over here at Pensacola Beach area where we're at, Santa Rosa and Escambia County beaches have opened back up. Escambia County is open any daylight hours, and Santa Rosa County has a set hours too. So it's just the first step to getting back to normal, and I think before too long we'll be there. I
like the way you think. I surely do. Have you been fishing?
Yeah, we've been fishing. 4 or 5 days last week, so it's definitely coming around and picking up a little bit for us.
All right, get me started. What's going on offshore?
Offshore, so amberjacks opened up in the Gulf on Friday, so we chased those around Friday and Saturday, and did pretty well. With the closures or most everything else, it opens up the opportunity for people to go out and do a lot of boating and stuff. So the biggest issue was crowds. We catch amberjacks on our bigger public wrecks, anywhere from 70 feet out to, we have some in the 200-foot range. So just about every wreck was covered with boats. The thing that set people apart was having some good live bait. So hardtails, blue runners, some people we call them hardtails up here, but if you have live hardtails, you're going to catch some amberjack, and that's just pretty much what you need to go out there with to put them in the boat.
Makes sense to me. It sure does. That hard for an amberjack. I tell you, you got something that can run away from him, he wants it. I think that's the deal with hardtails. Sure. If they have to chase it down, that's just what they love. Sure. Sounds to me from talking to the other guys on the West Coast like maybe the cobia fishing's a little better this year.
Yeah, for sure. So sight fishing, people have still been sight fishing them on the beach. It's probably not as hot as it was last week, but definitely catching a few still, and also on the same big wrecks that we're amberjack fishing on, there's been cobias being caught every day too. So, have a rod rigged ready with a jig, or one you could put a live bait on real quick when he comes out to the boat, pitch it back to him, and you'll be in the game on that. That's been good fishing, and we've had some great weather. A lot of people out there, but good fishing. Also, vermilion snappers on the wreck, and people have been catching a few king mackerels, but not too many yet.
I want to see the charter business get back to normal. Are you starting to book more trips for next month?
Yeah, we've got some definitely booked. I've had quite a few customers calling for June. So May is never a super hot month for us. We get some customers, but once the summertime comes around, red snapper season opens, we got a lot of people trying to book that first 2 weeks of June. So hopefully by then everything's back to normal and we're running wide open.
Fantastic. Anything important going on inshore over there?
Yeah, so inshore, since the beach is up and back up, the Pompano fishing was just incredible for a lot of people those first few days the beach opened. So, surf fishing for Pompano has been excellent. Live pan, please, peeled shrimp, that kind of stuff. So that's the beach fishing. And then also back inshore, pickerel trout are starting to show up in good numbers too. Fishing over the grass, fishing structure in the water, live croaker or, live shrimp. Been really good.
That's outstanding. That's great news, Tyler. I'm hoping that people are going to start ringing your phone off the hook and life's going back to normal. Tell me we can look forward to talking with you next week.
Sounds good. I'll be here.
Thank you, Tyler. Captain Tyler Massey wraps up our trip around the state tonight. Gosh, I tell you, everybody seemed to be in a better mood, didn't they? Everybody seems to be positive that life is returning to normal. Even Captain Alan Schurman down in Miami, who's probably under more restriction, he and Nick Stancic right now, than anybody else is, but they can see that things are going to happen. They can see improvement every day. More phones are ringing. People are wanting to come back and go fishing. I think we're going to come through this thing sooner than we thought, folks. I'm counting on it anyway. It's been great getting the word everywhere. Captain David Borey's talking about up in Jacksonville where the Reds are still holding in deep water. Offshore, the blue water fishing has been largely substandard. It's well worth going. May's going to be your best month, but the Mahi run hasn't really materialized as of yet. Jim Ross down in East Central Florida said things were very slow for him, that the Reds weren't biting, the snook weren't biting. He thinks it may be a phase of the moon. Down in Miami, Alan Schurman said the fish are ready. The people just have a hard time with getting boats in the water. They're very restricted as to when they can launch, and everybody's trying to go fishing at once. That's been tough for them to manage. Nick Stancic has great fishing. The sailfish fishing in Miami and the Keys has been fabulous. It's just that the Keys haven't opened back up yet. There's nowhere for anybody to stay. The tarpon down around Steve Dahl's area in 10,000 Islands, they're there now. They're wising up, and the water's getting warmer, so things have been a little bit tougher for them. Same thing for Greg Stamper, although he says the snook are doing very, very well. Ray Markham was real encouraged. He had caught a slam today, both reds, trout, and flounder. That's great news, and said that the action's good. It's just, once again, the difficulty of getting boats on the water. The boats on the water right now are tremendous because so many people are not in their offices, but the charters are having a hard time getting to Florida. But you know what? It's not going to be long till everything's going to be back to normal. I know I'm sure looking forward to it. We got areas of good fishing. I highly recommend if you're coming this summer, you call and book your trips now. We hope you enjoy our podcast. If you do, please be so kind as to subscribe wherever you get your podcast or like us on Facebook and Instagram. Florida Sportsman Action Spotter Podcast is brought to you each and every week by Yamaha. Reliability starts here. By Tournament Master Chum, the best chum on earth. By Nosara Paradise Fishing, your dream vacation. And by Young Boats. You want the best in flat, spay, and hybrid offshore boats? You want to visit youngboats.com. Hey, I'm Captain Rick Riles, and we'll see you next week. Until then, tight lines.